old world buildings, ancient civilizations, advanced humanities of the past, Tartaria. What is the truth? What's the explanation? What's the logical answer to the structures that we see here today? Will we know exactly who built them? I don't think so. Will we know how they did it? I don't think so. You know, there's a well-known saying that states that history is written by the winners. Therefore, whatever is written will always be from one perspective, from one side, which always leads to bias in the story. I've watched countless channels that speak about this topic, and you know, they all have good information, but I believe they make one serious mistake when trying to find out what the story is behind the world. And the mistake they make is they deviate from the Bible. You see, the Bible is the only book that comments about the world from an unbiased perspective. The Bible doesn't care about who won or not. It tells the story of the Israelites, God's people. It tells you when they got conquered. It tells you when they conquered. It's not biased. It tells you exactly what happened. And all throughout the Bible, it leaves these comments about cities and structures that reached the heavens and people that were giants. So why wouldn't you read the Bible to find out about the past? That's my question. You see, I believe the story of the old world was in front of us all this time. I also believe that in order to understand the whole world, you have to understand a certain person. A person who has been below the radar all of this time in all of these old world theories. Nobody really mentions him. Well, who is this person? You guessed it, Satan. I believe all of these cities were built by Satan, and I believe Satan attempted to make heaven on earth. We know the Bible states that he was kicked out of heaven with a third of the angels in heaven. So already we have existential beings kicked out of heaven onto earth. It's obvious that Satan would be 1,000 times more knowledgeable than any human on earth, as he literally came from heaven. With the knowledge that Satan fell with, it's easier to understand how these amazing structures were built, how ancient technology was able to exist. Clearly Satan had a lot of influence over that. Clearly he came with knowledge from heaven and tried to make this kingdom on earth. I think that's what basically happened. And Satan's kingdom was built amongst a people who believed in their own works and not God. Satan's kingdom were full of people that were proud, and I believe all of these structures that we see today were a proud people, a people who really believed in themselves, a people who were law-abiding citizens. And we know that's what Satan does. He puts you under the law and tells you if you disobey the law, you'll end up in hell. So I believe he sets up these kingdoms all throughout the Bible, mighty kingdoms with giant men, giant people that existed in those days. And he set them up in a sort of works-based kingdom where they were proud of what they did. They were proud of their cities. They believed they were great and mighty, and they conquered land. And it just led to their downfall, because pride comes before the fall. And instead of believing in the God of Israel, Satan got all these people in his kingdom to believe in their own works, and they were trying to establish their own kingdom, Satan's kingdom, instead of obeying or accepting the kingdom of God, which was spiritual. And I think that's what we see here today. I mean, look at Genesis chapter 11 verse 4. Now this is why I say the Bible is so important, because it gives you an idea of how these people felt. So it speaks about the Tower of Babel. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." So they used brick instead of stone and tar instead of mortar. "Come," they said, "let us build for ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the earth." So look at the attitude of these people. They literally believed in themselves. They believed they could build a city and a tower that reaches the heavens. And the story of the Bible goes on to say that they almost were successful. God had to literally come down and stop them and scatter them across the face of the earth. Another interesting verse is Deuteronomy 9:1. "Listen, O Israel, today you are about to cross the Jordan River to take over the land belonging to nations much greater and more powerful than you. They live in cities with walls that reach to the sky." So clearly the Bible is describing civilizations that existed in this time that were great, that had great cities, that were bigger and greater than the people of God. Clearly the Bible is describing these cities, and clearly the people within these cities were not the people of Israel. They were not the people of God. In the Old Testament, the people of Israel were always the people of God. And the people of Israel were always the weaker nation. The people of Israel were always surrounded by these great cities, these Goliaths, these giants, and they always were under great threat from great cities. Egypt is one of the most powerful kingdoms on earth, and they tried to wipe out the Jews, wipe out Israel. So you have an example of Satan and his people making these great cities, and this is Satan's kingdom. This was all Satan's kingdom. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 28. It further speaks about the city. So it says, "Where can we, our brothers, say the people are stronger and taller than we are? The cities are large with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there." So clearly the Bible is making reference to a taller, bigger, larger humanity that the Israelites were clearly scared of, and these people that were bigger had large cities with walls that reached up to the sky. And all throughout the Bible it mentions civilizations that rose and fell and rose and fell. I think it's not that deep, guys. I think these buildings that we see in the park, these buildings that we see, these ancient structures that clearly were technological, I believe they were created by Satan, and I believe you see evidence of them in these scriptures. These large cities with walls that reach up to the sky, I believe the remnants of them are what you see today. Star forts, town halls, I believe it's all remnants from these cities that were made in the past. Like I said in my other video, you know, Adam and Eve, just like Satan and them, I think they were very advanced. I think they knew how to make things. I think they knew how to get things done. Now, what does Satan do to Adam and Eve? He gets them under the law. He makes them eat from the knowledge of good and evil. Once they eat from that tree, they basically know right from wrong, and immediately they try to do what's right, thinking that that's what's going to save them, because they try to cover themselves knowing that they were naked, and they knew it's wrong to be naked, so they try to do what's right by covering themselves. So immediately, the moment humans knew what to do right from wrong, we try to do what's right. And I believe that's how Satan sets up his kingdoms. He made people believe the right thing to do is to follow the law and to be good people, else you end up in hell, or else you end up with your civilization being conquered. And I believe these people believed in themselves, not God. They believed in their own works instead of God's work. And that's what you see all across the world. Satan's kingdom, a prideful kingdom, a kingdom that tried to replicate heaven but met a cataclysmic demise. And we'll speak about that in our other videos.